Hastings Planning Board for May 15th, 2019. Just go around the table and introduce ourselves.
Carolyn Stevens, Planning Board member.
Ching Hua Chin, Chair.
Jim Basinas, board member.
Nancy Arcia, consultant to the planning board.
Sandy Anelli, secretary.
David Stolman, town planning consultant.
Christy Adana, attorney.
Could I have a motion to move this into an executive session?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session to get advice of counsel.
I'll second.
We're going into executive session.
Executive session.
Okay, could I have a motion to go back into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Let the record be noted that our documents joined us on the board here. Okay. First item on the agenda is Riverno Multifamily Development, 40 Crongham Road, reviewing the preliminary final environmental impact statement. Applicant here?
Yes, I'm Glenn Detremile, developer, and we submitted to you the reconciliation of the costs, both in terms of contributions, exterior and interior. And we also did at the top of, and I'm referring to a memorandum that was circulated by Sandy, dated April 25th. And in the top, it goes through the town's requirements of open space per unit, which is about 400 feet of open space per unit, or 75,200 feet of open space we are required. We are, in fact, providing 632,726. So we're 557,000 feet beyond what's required by code. And then similarly, the rec fees, the requirement is 7,500 for market rate units per unit, and then 2,500 for below market rate units, for a total of $1,315,000. And then we are providing within our project $2,582,000 worth of amenities. And then the memorandum goes on to show you the scope of those amenities, both interior, exterior. If you'd like me to walk you through them, I will. Yes? There's two pieces to it. One is just literally stating what they are, and then the next two pages, pages 2, 3, next 3 pages, is an itemization of how those figures were calculated. Dan CRCF did review them and submitted a memorandum to you tonight, explaining what his review is and his conclusions.
Did you have any response to Dan's memo?
Well, his I think it's, I think it's correct, more or less. And I'm, happy to answer any questions as to the calculations we used.
Could you start off with who has access to these items?
When you say access,
Access, is it open to members not living, not, to folks not residents at the location?
Well, the interior would not be. You were also submitted to you by Wayne Spector was a memorandum that is taken directly from the town's code relative to these requirements, and there is no requirement that they be available to people not within the community.
Yeah, I understand that, but, so I believe you said that the community garden would be open to.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so I'm assuming though the pool would not be?
No.
Right. What about the trails on, to Veterans Park and the trails on site? Would those be open to the public?
Yes. Yeah, there's a trail to Veterans Park. We're in a discussion on a trail within our acreage that may be available. It's an ongoing conversation right now.
Okay.
It might connect into
The Greenway?
a greenway, yes, which I think we would like.
Okay.
But yes, as part of recent discussions, we would be providing a community garden.
And
It'd be
playground?
irrigated and enclosed, it would be fenced in.
Okay. The children's playground, would that be open?
No, it'd just be a small playground.
Could you confirm that the trail going through the property will link the 134 road all the way through to Narragansett Avenue as a way to essentially cut through from one to the other for the public?
We'd be willing to do that. It has been raised, mainly for school children to get through. From Croton Dam over to Narragansett.
For bicyclists, that's
Yeah.
general public. Are you committing to that?
Happy to do, no, happy, yes. I mean, willing to do it, yes.
Right, sure.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
But
Additionally, in the past, we've discussed a conservation easement for the so-called sledding hill. Are you still, or I should say, are you, because I'm not sure you've ever committed to that. Is that something you would be willing to commit to at this time?
I think we're willing to go even one step further than that. Most of the open space, I've talked about putting in a conservation easement. Who the holder would be could be the town or could be a conservation agency. There are a couple have been suggested, but that would prevent any development on the open space in the future. So.
But you're essentially asking if the sledding hill would be open to the public?
Yes, in perpetuity.
I'd just like to point out that when you're talking about a sledding hill, where if it's open to the public as a sledding hill, there has to be some discussions because there could be liability issues,
Right,
which
yes,
have to
certainly.
be addressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, there certainly would be. But it's currently, and for 50 years, as far as I know, been a hill that children have sledded on, and that's been an issue in the adjoining neighborhoods with respect to your proposal.
An issue positive or negative, because this has always been private property, so
Well,
this,
the issue-
at the,
Right, the
the
issue has been that
owners
they
could
were
have.
fearing the loss of that, that easement. I don't know if it's an official easement, but it's been tolerated for time immemorial. So that's something that many neighbors have talked about fearing the loss of.
In concept, I think it's fine. I think he put his finger on the issue. I just
The
don't want to take on
liability, sure.
unnecessary liability if someone breaks their arm, leg, back, or whatever. I'm sure there's a mechanism to get around that. I don't know at this moment what it is.
I'm sure that we can work something out with the town if the town wants to accept responsibility as a public sledding hill and be responsible for liability on that basis through an easement or some agreement.
Okay.
It can be done, but that's not I don't think this board can decide that.
Yeah, that sounds
we
like
would
a
probably need to
reasonable
look into
compromise,
that.
Yeah, okay. So if you're open to that, I'm happy with that.
I mean, any private owner of the property has to be very careful about public use of.
I certainly understand that, yeah.
Yes.
So just to summarize this, on the exterior portion, none of the interior portion can be open to public. The exterior portions, the community garden is open, and the Trails of Veterans part is open, and you would consider having the trails on site linking, being open as well. Is that it?
Yes,
Okay, none of the other items would be open, correct?
no.
Okay.
If I may, I
And I
would
can
just like.
let me just walk through them. So the community garden, we talked about, there's a pool which is specific to the, to the community project, and landscaped areas around it, of course. And there's-
Point of clarification on the pool, sorry to interrupt you, but is that that's an outdoor pool?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
It sits where there's like a level spot if you come up the main road at today. It's right there as you're coming up the hill. It's treed in. Then there's a garden on the inside of the building, big garden. And then a small playground, one of these little, jungle gyms would be for the community. And that's it.
And I would like to just reiterate the comments that I addressed in my letter to the board, which is, again, I mean, the questions are, certainly are, you're free to ask the questions about what's open and what isn't open to the community, but just a plain reading of the town's fee schedule, which addresses the adjustment to the recreation fee, refers to recreation facilities provided within the subject development, which it's private property, so it does not talk about making it open to the public. It's addressed, in my interpretation is that it's providing a credit for the fact that by providing recreation facilities within your facility for your residents, you're putting less of a burden on the town's recreation facilities, which is why the credit is given, or at least authorized under the code.
So I accept that logic for some of these line items, but not for all of them. For instance, fitness center, yoga, Pilates rooms, I accept that because I think that fewer people will go to the recreational building to utilize those facilities.
As well as the pool.
Well, the pool.
You do have a town pool here as well.
The pool is a different issue because, as we just got clarified, your pool will be an outdoor pool. Our pool is an indoor pool. So at least during 3/4 of the year, your residents will likely be going to use the village pool, the town village pool. So, you can parse that out.
Frankly, the entire year, it's not an apples to apples comparison. The town pool will not function anywhere near the way that you plan on using your pool on site. There is no mitigation there whatsoever. The town pool basically functions with swim teams and swimming laps and organized events. There's never just a go and hang out and catch some sun kind of a
My
scenario.
experience-
There are free open swims,
Yes,
but
there are.
clearly you're
right,
not catching
but
sun and-
It's
yeah.
just not the same.
and it's not oriented toward that.
But let me just add to that. My experience, and I've done projects with pools, we always remark after we've built them how little use they get. If we get 10% of the people using them, people just go to the gym. And we do it more as an amenity. It's more of a visual thing than it is a real use. It's just the way it is.
Well, and under the logic, if you're looking at it, because there are aspects of what's being provided which are being provided for the community as a whole, then I think it's fair to say that the developer should get greater credit for that in a sense, because that's not only lessening the impact from the use of town facilities by the residents of the development, but it's also creating additional recreation facilities for the entire community in that respect. So I think there's a quid pro quo to be looked at on that as well. So if you want
I
to,
agree with that as
if
well.
you give a lesser credit for a pool, then you should give a greater credit for a community garden and a trail.
Great.
Mhm.
I agree.
Do we have similar liability concerns with the trails?
I'm going to have to think about that and work that out as well. You're right.
So, along this line item discussion, I must say that inclusion of the building community room at all doesn't make sense to me. There may be some history doing similar things in the past, but on the face of it, a community room doesn't really mitigate any town facility recreational amenity. I would think that that should be, that whole block of items should be stricken. That's my view on that.
You're saying a fitness center, a cycling studio, yoga studio?
No. Fitness center, yoga studio, that counts in my view fully. But the building community room with a viewing lounge, video and audio, billiards table, maybe if you want to count the billiards table, I'll give you that. Kitchenette, barista nook, food dispensary, I don't think any of that should be counted.
Okay.
I think that's pushing it.
I mean, isn't the sort of net of this, though, that even if you pulled those things out, relative to the formula, 7,500 per unit, 2,500 per market rate unit, we're so far beyond it that if you start pulling some of these things out, we're still way beyond the proposed or the suggested cost. We're more than double. No, yeah, we're double approximately. And then there are little things, not so little things. We're going to be extending the water main across the top of our property, been asked for, so that the areas like, I think it's called Parth Knolls, that area can have redundancy in water. That costs us money, and we don't have to do it to build for art, but it's been asked of us by, and that's going to benefit all of those people.
Is that water line in this?
No,
Okay.
no, it's not recreation.
Right, I think we're only focusing on the recreation.
No, but I'm just saying in terms of our cost, it all comes out of the same pot for us. You can call it recreation fee, you can call it a water line extension, it's the same pot. Different words.
I hear you, but to play devil's advocate, compared to a conforming, project, which we're not suggesting, your proposal is probably 3 times the population that a conforming project with the zoning district would be.
No. And it's certainly much, much less in terms of school.
If we were to do,
In terms of
if
school
we were to
age
do
population.
single-family residential, which I'm not suggesting, if we were to do single-family residential according to the existing zoning characteristics, your project is more along the lines of 3 times the population.
That's not true.
That's not the case. We've gone over the numbers. You've actually presented it to us.
We have. They're in the alternatives. And go through and look at the school-age population. If you build 40, if you build...
I'm not suggesting the school age
And
population.
think about the impact to the school district. There would be, if you're talking about 4-bedroom homes, there would be hugely tax negative to school district if you're building homes.
Not the point I'm making. 30 residential homes versus 188 units.
It's not going to be 30.
It's closer to...
It wouldn't be far off from 30.
There are so many alternatives in there that are well beyond 30.
And I'm
That
talking
we have been asked by
strictly
you,
zoning
David, to
compliant.
produce.
That's the one I'm referring to.
Okay.
Okay, I don't think that this is,
do we need a discussion of the individual items and equipment?
Alternative A, 30 single-family lots, 110 residents. It's right out of your book.
Okay.
188 units would be how many people? 373 residents? I don't think I was too far off.
Okay.
The,
And your bigger point, though, what's your bigger point? Relative to...
Sheer population.
To recreation is what I'm trying to understand.
Sheer population and the people living on the project using the neighborhood facilities.
So if I were to go through the categories,
Point well taken.
thank you. If I were to go through the categories that I'm uncomfortable with including, heard, building a community room, the doggy daycare, I would add, and the pool. I don't think the pool should be counted, or at least it should be heavily prorated. And the courtyard garden and quiet zones. So I add these up, and I get 1,436,000. So it's almost exactly half of what you're asking for to be credited. So I think all the discussion should only refer really to about a 1,500,000.
Yeah, but we started this using as a template the Park Knolls project that you reviewed 2 years ago. We almost used the exact same categories, and you guys accepted those for Park Knolls. So we took that as a template to calculate our numbers. But you accepted those, and they're almost, they have a community room, they have almost identical with, they don't have dog daycare, but they have almost the same program as what we're showing here. And you accepted that. So we're just using what they used. We're not reinventing anything here.
Well, just to get a point in before we go on past that, we didn't accept all of Park Knolls numbers either, okay, just for Tony.
Yeah,
so.
no, I was going to say, I mean, based on the numbers you've given us, if we didn't accept half and seriously considered the other half, you're still pretty close to what the rec fee is. I mean,
We're over.
you're over,
Yes,
so.
we're over it. So my earlier point was,
Right.
even if you start taking these things out,
Right.
aren't we beyond the number anyway?
Yeah, well, that's, we
Yes.
gotta see what,
Park Knolls was more than twice the rec fee.
right,
They were putting in value equal to more than twice the rec fee.
so, I'm just saying, is there, I guess my other question would come down to, since checking the numbers that we've been provided for the, such as the preparation materials and things like that, is there some way that we can have somebody take a look at this?
Sure,
And,
sure. I believe that, Dan,
Dan?
correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Dan's comfortable with vetting some of it, but not all of it, so we do need to get someone to vet the rest of
Okay.
it.
Dan, can we get some of these numbers vetted on
Yeah.
the construction costs? I think the land value is what it is, but we can get.
Well, I don't think we're including the land value.
Oh, okay, and not for the open space, like,
No, because
I mean, for the community
because
garden and stuff.
Glenn has
Include
wrung all of the density out of that land. So the money he's putting into improving the community garden, I think, makes sense.
the- Okay,
The land is just there, and
well, if we can get, Dan, if you could check the numbers on the,
Yeah,
Yeah, I
more
know.
detailed review.
we need to get someone to do the work that he is
Right.
not comfortable doing.
Right. So if you don't, if we're not going to give the land value credit, that's another 250,000 off. So this is, I have this at about
1.2.
1,700, about 1,750,000 approximately. And if you take that off of the amount that you're saying you provided, you come down almost exactly to what's required in your required column, the 1,315,000. So you're almost there once you remove what I think shouldn't be there. Just to your point, you're saying, you know, you can take some away, but you're still way over the required amount. I don't think that's true. I think you're at the required amount essentially. So just for reference.
In other words, in the best case scenario, we would still be considering them only matching the rec fees.
That's correct.
That's what you said.
Right.
And that's the best case scenario, not counting other factors that we may be taking into account for how much of it actually would be diverting from the public use, for the public use.
But Wayne's point that a lot, you know, things like the trail from one road to the next does actually increase the public's
Right.
access. So you should be,
Right, those are factors to
should,
consider.
yeah,
Right,
as
and
well.
those
in the
are
other
factors,
direction.
and those
Sure.
are factors
Yeah.
we should consider.
Yeah.
And,
And that's not in here, which you just pointed out.
right. But, okay, so. Dan-
Wait, when you say that's not in here, you're saying that the trail, you're definitely not, you're not having the trail.
No, we just,
Hit the point of asking.
we're willing to do it, it's just not, that cost is not reflected here.
Okay.
Wait, then why is the number here as part of your scope of recreational facilities? I'm looking at trails on site.
Yeah, there's a separate trail that we're talking about
Connecting.
that would connect to the, what did you call the trail system?
The
Greenway.
Greenway.
Oh, that's an entirely different trail.
Yes.
Okay.
There's another trail being spoken at that's been asked of us
Mhm.
for children to connect from the Veterans Park across to Croton Dam Road. That's how it's been explained to us.
So we don't have an actual number for that
No.
anyway, okay.
That would be an additional cost
Okay.
to us.
Can you get us that number?
Yes.
Okay, so Dan, you'll take care of,
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're assuming everything, you take a crack at it based upon all the items that are in his analysis. As opposed to if any of these things is being discounted as not valid toward it, otherwise I'll just analyze them all.
right, and take care of any of the ones that you don't feel comfortable, you'll find an
Right,
expert
right,
who
okay.
handle that as well.
So
Right.
we'll replicate all the items.
But I think,
in
Gary,
his
you wanted to
detail.
exclude certain items.
Yeah, that might be a separate analysis. You
Well, I
were,
mean,
you were gonna go
He's just
through and
gonna
just
crank through the-
validate.
yeah.
It's gonna
Yeah,
validate the
we'll go through the
numbers.
numbers,
for us.
right.
Yeah,
So
okay.
so
And then-
many
and then we
exercise
And then you guys
things will
Right.
can
call
cut out
such and
what,
such.
cut out what you think.
So that'd be a second step, I guess.
Yeah, and in large part, for example, the construction costs of the trails and the garden and those kinds of things.
All right, does that leave you with more information?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it sounds like a lot of it's in Dan's camp to verify certain line items, re-verify them. And then we'll come up with a valuation of the additional trail.
Right.
I think those are the two
Yep.
things to do, right?
Is there a,
We'll see you next time.
the most current architectural plan that shows where these spaces are in the building?
Yes.
Okay, if somebody could send me a PDF for that.
Any additional requests from the planning board at this time? Anything we need to do on this?
No.
Okay, are there any members of the public interested in speaking on this matter?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, town staff. My name is Lino Sciaretta. I'm a partner of the law firm of Montalbano, Condon and Frank. And I'm here tonight on behalf of Mr. Antonio Santucci and Marissa Caruso with respect to their opposition to this project. This is something that you probably heard. They have voiced their concerns with respect to this project, and I'm here to really understand at this point why in this process, it sounds like what I'm hearing tonight, this is like a done deal. And I don't even know what the zoning.
Council.
But can I just go on, sir? I was respectful of your time this evening.
No, that's
I just want to
council.
I just want to put this on the record because I'm here listening to this and I don't have a zoning in place for it. I'm hearing about documents that have been submitted. I can't find these documents. And, you know, it's very interesting that.
I have to object to this at this point.
Excuse me.
It's not, should not be going on the record. This is inappropriate for the record at this point.
Do, sit down. It's not a public hearing, but you gave me the opportunity to speak.
You're an attorney.
Thank you, and I have been for 20-some-odd plus years.
This is
Okay?
not for an attorney to speak.
So you've asked me for comment, and I'm putting my comments on the record. This project, and you'll hear it from me time and time again, is ill-advised, ill-conceived, and just violates every tenet of zoning. I don't know why we're talking about recreation fees and FEIS, which is very clever, by the way, when I noticed that you're talking about zoning of underutilized and non-conforming Stony Lodge to adaptively reuse or redevelop. There's no adaptive reuse here.
Council, I'm going to give you 1 minute.
But this is very important for all of you to understand. This is not an adaptive reuse. Again, this project, where we are in this process, there should be a zoning in place. There is no zoning. You're talking about a project, but where's the zoning? Where's your bulk table on this? Again, I understand this is my first night appearing here, but we will be watching. I ask that any documents that have been submitted here tonight be posted online so that the public and all of us can review them. And this is just unbelievable what I'm hearing tonight. In all my years of doing zoning and land use, where we are in this project, having this project in the middle of a residential neighborhood that has no multifamily whatsoever. None at all. Thank you.
Okay, Sandy, do you have these documents on our website?
They're not on the website, but I can.
Okay. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Rinaldi subdivision, 39 Stormtown Road, proposed 10-lot subdivision. I believe we're opening the public hearing for this. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Peaceful?
Good evening. J.B. Hernandez, architect for the project. Since this is the first public hearing, should we just walk through the project and explain the project? Okay. This is the,
Sandy's going to.
yes.
Put it up on the screen so you can see.
This is a 6.68 acres located in Stormtown Road. What we're proposing is a 10-lot subdivision. Goes, there we go. In the 10-lot subdivision, we have 2 lots that are fronting on Stormington Road. One of those lots is existing, one of those houses is existing. The road that we're proposing follows an existing sewer easement to the property. The property also has a course of water that's attributed to the Sing Sing Hill, and we are respecting the 50-foot buffer zone in the property. We have gone through a few meetings with the board and also met with neighbors, and we have walked the property with some board members and also the Environmental Conservation Board. We have taken through this process trying to address most of the issues that everybody has presented. We have done some stormwater testing and will be submitting next to Mr. CRC a complete SWIP. Through that, we have done reduced the size of the houses. We're now looking at like 2,500 square foot home. What we have done is reduce the footprint in order to accommodate the grading in some of the stormwater conditions on the site. We also, something that we have talked to some of the board members when we walk the property, there are about 270 existing trees. We are taking down 114 of those, but we just want to point out that of this 114, about close to 50% of them are either dead or in poor conditions through the storm. And then we are planning to replace a lot of these trees. We're proposing to, as the code requires, we're replacing over 50% of the calipers of these trees. We're proposing to replace like almost 750 inches of calipers. Some of the issues that we dealt with the board as we went through the subdivision was there is a house that it looks like it's with the side to the Stormington, but that house, even though it's facing the road that we are proposing, that house is higher than Stormington and is heavily wooded area, so you won't see the side of the house from the road. The existing little red house that we're proposing to maintain, and then we are going to, as the board requested the last time, there was a small lot area on the side that we're proposing to make that part of the road.
Did you say that 100% of the stream buffer is being respected and not
Yes.
approached the code?
Yep.
What was that number a little bit? Or go back up.
Yes.
Yeah. You can see the 50-foot
Yeah.
buffer there. Actually,
way behind it.
yeah, that's, there's the homes.
That's the little
Yep.
road that like this and they want to. The little road that they put in, that's sort of gonna pave there. And then down the hill for us, there'll be a court, and then the lots are behind us. So like I said,
I'm open to if there's any questions from the public.
I have,
Yeah.
Oh.
Did the board have any questions at this time? Any members of the public wish to speak?
Okay, name and address. Not, pardon me? Should I get them? Okay. Nava Bat Abraham, 20 Stormytown Road. No one has spoken to us. First time we heard about it was through this. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of blasting because if it's anything like our property, there are a ton of rocks. So we'd like to know what the bond is so that there's plenty of money in case anything happens to our homes. Also, we'd like to know the procedure for getting damages if there is any problem with our homes. We'd like to know the length of construction since we have dogs and children and it's going to really impact their little lives. Also, we'd like to know if the contract includes any late fees if they say, okay, construction's going to be for a year and then it's 18 months or 2 years. Are there penalties in the contract for the contractor? The traffic light, we would really love them to pay for a traffic light, because if anyone knows Stormytown Road, literally no one stops at the stop signs. It's very disconcerting and very, very dangerous to all of us. Also, tax dollars. We always wonder, you know, if you are going to get more tax dollars, are you going to beautify our street? It's like a hellhole. I mean, it's like the South Bronx. It's really humiliating every time you drive up and down the street. The department, the highway department does not clean our street the way it should be. I mean, every day there's litter and garbage. I would think it would be a humiliation to the town, but obviously it is not. The other thing is the wildlife, again, endangering the children and the animals. There are coy wolves that are there that I've seen on my property. There are these horrible turkey hens, which are as tall as I am, and there are foxes. If this is going to disrupt things, are they going to come by the executive park and create a danger again to our lives and our animals? Also busing. I'm sure these are homes where there are going to be lots of children. How many more buses are going to be on our street? How much more traffic is going to be on our street? And also, is there any standing to appeal if the answers aren't good to some or any of these questions? Okay, thank you.
Any other members of the public?
Hello. Robert Rodriguez, 28 Stormytown Road. I concur with everything the previous speaker said. Yeah, I live right across the street from this project that didn't take place, and this is the first time I'm hearing about it also when I received this letter. I'm right across the street. Besides everything, I concur with everything she said. I also just want to add one thing also. There's one existing house there right now, property, and the people there are renting. So my question is, that the 7 new homes, are they going to be rented or ownership? Thank you. Thank you.
Any other members of the public?
Iris Rosario from 22 Stormytown Road. Again, this is the first time that we heard just through the letter that the other members mentioned about this project, so we were not contacted or know anything about the project. And I agree with the traffic light, it is the most needed. It is a very, very, very busy area, so we're having very difficulty coming out of a driveway every morning. So I could see with more homes built, that is going to create a problem. Another issue is either what kind of homes are we going to build there? What is the property value of the homes that are going to be built in that property? And what is the benefits for the homeowners in that community, if any? So also how we research the negative impact of the homeowners in that area. So if that hasn't been researched, then I think that is something that is need to be looked into it before we build all these homes and impact the life of the people that already live there. Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Okay, seeing none. Does the applicant want to respond at this time?
Some of these questions, we will research them as much as we can. I just want to mention that these are not meant to be, all the units for rent. It's going to be private properties.
I believe there's still some more submissions we expect from them.
Yes, JB has more work to do, so we need to adjourn this to a date certain.
Okay. So the members of the public be watchful of the agenda, that this item will continue, and it's one of the reasons why we open up the public hearing, so that you folks are aware of this. We're neighbors like everybody else. We want to be able to make sure the public's aware of these things. But the process is just starting. Your input is valuable.
Sorry, Giselle from 22 Stormytown Road. In future hearings, Hi. Giselle Rosario from 22 Stormytown Road. It's my first time to coming to one of these hearings, so as these conversations get underway, and depending on where the conversation goes and the level of detail that the builders would have to supply? Or is there gonna be those details shared with all of us online, things like construction plans, requirements on electricity, energy? I know that sometimes power lines are an issue around our area, and we lose power every once in a while, so I'm just kind of thinking down the road, if this is approved, how that's gonna impact all of us. And once again, I just support everything that our neighbors have said here before.
My understanding is most of the building is going to be under code anyway, so it shouldn't be an issue, but the documents will be placed on the website.
Okay.
Sandy, is that correct?
Yes, all the times of construction, how loud it will be, what roads their vehicles will be parked and all of that.
Those are all covered.
That's all
Yeah.
governed by the
Zoning laws.
existing zoning code,
Okay.
or the
building
different
code.
provisions,
Building
building
code.
code, noise
The
code.
town code.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we need a date certain for the next hearing.
Public hearing.
Public hearing. What's Sandy's next date?
Our next meeting is June 5th or June 19th.
I will be out of town on June 5th.
Okay, June 19th. It's doable, okay. Folks around? Okay, you have submissions by June 19th?
Yes.
So, we'll adjourn it to June 19th then.
Just- If you could just do that by motion,
All right.
sorry.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any objections?
Thank you.
Any other items on the agenda?
Minutes?
Thank you. Nope, I think that's it. Okay.
Minutes.
Thank you. Minutes, had a chance to read the minutes?
I mean, we could.
Yeah, no, I mean, but you had.
That Star Retail, it starts, remember, the tree came down and busted up. Well, that's.
Adopt the minutes?
Second.
No objections? Adopted. Any new business? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
That's the sewer.
I'm sorry, just a general question of all the development that's going on in Ossining. Is anybody working with Cablevision? Because as more and more homes goes in, bandwidth gets spread further and further and further, and the access times go, slower and slower. So I'm not sure if that's your domain to do that, or, how that works. Because, I've had Cablevision for, 30-plus years, and as more and more places went in, it gets slower and slower and slower and slower, and a lot of development going on, which is great.
I'm not sure that's one of the things we normally worry about, because that's usually covered by the cable companies themselves.
Yeah, that's
But unless
outside
they
the
know that
scope.
all this development's going in, I'm sure they monitor this. But is there anybody saying, improve your bandwidth, or, put
We
in
have to
more
remember
lines?
that if they don't get the subscriber from the new development, they don't care.
Right.
Right, and it won't affect you at all. So that's not really an issue until they get the subscribers. And then when you start complaining to them that, you're gonna switch to Verizon because their speed is too low,
Mhm.
then they'll hear you.
Okay. Okay, thanks, just one.
So you haven't called the cable company?
To be honest, we switch back and forth between the two. Okay, thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Yeah.